رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Inshallah, today we will resume our talk on the life of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. Today is the 11th talk on the series of the life of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh. In the previous talk, we talked about a few things about the rulings during the time of Uthman bin Affan and what were the effects of the ruling that included the rights of the Ummah to hold the Khalifa accountable, and like the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh and Umar, Uthman continue to have this part of his ruling, and this is part of Islam in general, to hold the rulers even accountable for what they do. At the end of the day, their job is to implement the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if there are any shortcomings, this is part of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy al Munkar, that like you do for any regular Muslim, enjoin the good and forbid the evil, that goes along with for the rulers as well. And we understand that the consequences of mistakes done by rulers could be much higher, and the effects would be much higher than just an individual does it to one single individual or a couple of individuals. So anyways, this is part of our deen, as one of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talks about, that ad-deen nasiha, the deen is consultation. And when it was asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, nasiha means advice. When it was asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to whom, and Rasulullah mentioned to lillahi wa rasuli wal kitabi, that to Allah and His Messenger and His book, and then it goes on to the rulers and the Ammatun Nas as well. So Aimma and Ammatun Nas. So what I mean by that is this is an advice that we take from Allah and His Messenger in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we give the advice to the people who have authority, who have power, the one who have leadership. And it is also an advice for regular Muslims as well. And when it comes to enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, this is in general an obligation on all the Muslims, and everybody is obliged to do according to his or her capabilities. So we see that in the time of Uthman bin Affan also, that is, this right was practiced by the Ummah in general, to hold accountable the Khalifa. And we can see even until the time when Uthman bin Affan, he was martyred and his house was surrounded, we see that he did not hold this idea of holding him accountable was wrong. Rather, he was discussing that what they were doing it for was incorrect way of doing it. But anyways, moving on, then we talked about the Shura in the time of Uthman bin Affan, and that Shura that existed not only in the time of Uthman, but rather in the time of Umar, Abu Bakr, and in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, when we talk about the ruling in Islam comes from the Quran and the Sunnah and Khulafa Rashidin. They did not deviate from the Quran and Sunnah. They continued to follow the footstep of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Uthman was not an exception to the case. And Shura, as I said, which is to advise or consultation, that is also part of one of the pillars in Islam for ruling. But we talked about a bit detail about the Shura as well, that when we talk about the Shura, it's important to understand what is Shura. Shura is regarding the things which are from Islam, and consultation is taken to choose between the things which are allowed within the Islam already, meaning something which is permissible in Islam by Allah Azza wa Jal, and consultation is taken for that. And we try to make it clear that consultation is not for coming up with new ahkam in Islam by any means, or this is not similar as just people get together and start legislating. This is not shura. Shura is about something which is already within Islam, which is allowed, and then do a consultation to see which way or which one should be chosen. So that's, and somebody who's interested should go back to the previous talk and listen to it, inshallah. Then we talked about justice and equality given in the time of Uthman bin Affan. We talked about Hisba, the way the accountability was done, or check and balance was kept within the state, including the streets of Medina as well. Now, when it comes to today, inshallah, we'll be starting something new today, and that will span for another 2 or 3 weeks, which is, so we talked about the ruling in the time of Uthman. Now we'll talk about the financial and judiciary institutions that were in the time of Uthman and how they were functioning in the time of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. So today we'll start with the financial institutions, and that itself will take a few talks to cover it up, inshallah. Now, in today's talk, it may be a quick one. One of the things is because of some another commitment that I have, so we may not have Q&A at the end. And this is today's talk is just online anyways. Inshallah, we will not be able to have the Q&A, but if there is any questions or comments regarding the talk that we are doing today, please note it down, and either you can post the questions on in the YouTube channel, or you can hold up to the questions for next week, and inshallah I will try to answer the questions or the comments that will be from today's talk as well. Now, as far as the financial policies goes in the time of Uthman, before we go into the financial policy, let's understand one aspect, which is a little bit of confusion for many people, that they don't realize when we are talking about financial policies or economic system. Many a times people they're not able to distinguish between policies or economic sciences and economic system. When we talk about the economic system, that is the collection and the distribution of the wealth, and that has to be done from the areas which are Islam allows. Or we go back to the Sharia, and Sharia tells us that from where those funds can be collected and where they can be spent as well, and how. That's what when it comes to system is. When it comes to science and sometimes policies, policies can be about some of the things which are mubah and how you are putting together the policies. And the same thing goes for the science of how you can increase the, for example, amount of wealth or through using the different sciences. For example, increasing the production, and increasing the production can turn into there are more products are available for the nation, and same thing goes for the distribution. For example, you can have different kind of means to estimate. For example, estimation means who are keeping track of the people who are getting how much stipend, and making sure that each and everyone's need is fulfilled. But going back, so in Islam, when you talk about the economic system, it is incumbent on the Khalifa to take care of all the people. It's not to just make sure Khalifa's job or the state's job is not just to come up with some estimate, and for example, a city or a village, they require, let's say, a certain amount of, let's say, 1 ton of food supply per month, and the job of the state is not just to provide, just making sure that we have produced 1 ton of food supply for the specific city or village, and do not worry about if everybody's needs have been fulfilled. In Islam, it's not only that, rather, yes, there will be efforts will be made to make sure that enough is there for the people, but also to make sure that it reaches the people, it reaches every individual, because the accountability about is for all the people. As we can see in the time of like Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, when the famous statement that he made about even if one person, even if an animal, and different reports talk about that, where there was the kid, meaning that the goat's baby goat, or other one talk about donkey or a dog, whichever it was animal, if it trips by the river Tigris or Dajla, Omar's concern was he will be held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the animal tripped, and why Omar did not pave the path for that animal. That's the seriousness of understanding that when you are in these kind of positions, that you are accountable to that extent. And this is what we see throughout Khulafa Rashidin, and even good examples of the Khulafa later on as well. Of course, there were weaknesses. This is not, nobody denies that there were some weaknesses in later Khulafa as well. But as a whole, until 1924, we see that the Islam was implemented, but after 1924, March 3rd, 1924, when the Khilafah was abolished in Turkey, where we recently had earthquake, where people are suffering to the extent that, as one of the numbers talk about, over 50,000 people have died in that earthquake. The epicenter was in Turkey and part of Syria. That happened about 10 days ago or so, and still the people are suffering. Of course, these kind of calamities can happen at any time, in any time and age. It doesn't have, but the point always should be remembered is, have you taken the precautions prior to any calamity happens, that it's not the calamity is not striking or hurting or harming the people because of shortcomings prior to the calamity happened. So, and after that, once a calamity occurs, of course, this is a qada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot do anything about the calamity itself, but we are accountable for what are the actions after the calamity occurs. So, now going back to Uthman bin Affan, when we are talking about Uthman's being the Khalifa and his financial policies, of course, the system of Islam was implemented, the economic system of that time, whether it was from Rasulullah sometimes, and after that, whether it was a time of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and later on, the economic system continued to be an Islamic economic system, meaning it was extracted from the Quran and the Sunnah. When we look at their principles, we see that they always applied the general the policies was from Islam, and there was a balance created between the collection of the dues and how those dues were distributed among the people, meaning whether it was a zakah money, whether we talk about the kharaj, whether we talk about the Ushur and khums and whatsoever kind of way means Islam allows to make the collection of the funds from the people that was done based on Islam. The basis was Islam, and then same thing goes for the distribution as well. So it was very clearly we can see in those times that the wealth that belonged to the state and how the state was utilizing those funds, and they were very keen about that no mismanagement of the funds happen, and we can find many examples regarding that. Like for example, in the time of Umar, we talked in our series on the life of Umar al-Khattab how keen he was that making sure that his family does not become any sort of beneficiary because of because of the status or because of the power Umar al-Khattab was holding in the state. Similar thing that we find in the time of Uthman bin Affan, even though there are some accusations against Uthman bin Affan were raised that he was about nepotism, for example, or he was favoring his relatives. When we look closely, we see that it's not more of a nepotism or anything. It was more of a who was eligible, and those positions were allowed to the people who were eligible. And if they happen to be from Banu Umayyah or the tribe of Uthman, then that's what happened. And let's not forget that Banu Umayyah was quite a big of a tribe. Hence, we see many of the positions were in the family of Uthman bin Affan given. But Uthman was very keen about making sure that they are not abusing the power in any sense, and we see that even he removed Walid bin Uqba, his half brother, from the position of governorship as well. Okay, and moving on. Besides creating a balance between what they were collecting and how they were distributing, also it was made sure that the correct right amount of funds were collected from the Muslims, which are supposed to be going into the Baytul Mal or the treasury of the state at that time. And same way, Ahlul Dhimma, whatever they owed to the Baytul Mal, Ahlul Dhimma were the non-Muslim citizens of the state, and they pay a different kind of tax. We have talked at length in the past that those taxes were, in general, were pretty small amount, and but that's the amount that they were paying, and in return they were protected by the state, and they became one of the subjects of the state, and continue to practice their religion as they wished by themselves. They were they were not forced to accept Islam. As we have mentioned many times, and it's a sad story that many times we find that Muslims are accused of Islam was forced to the people, or Islam was spread through the sword by the threat people became Muslim. That's a pretty weak kind of accusation, because today's reality shows otherwise, that after Islam ruled over those lands for 13 centuries or more, the people continue to be practicing many people continue to practice their religions generations through generation. And even after the state was abolished in 1924, we see that we see that those people who were, whichever religion they were following, they continue to follow the religion. So that's what about Ahlul Dhimma, whatever they owed. And also, of course, when they are the citizens, they were also taken care of by the state. They were protected by the state, and the jizya, the tax that they give, that is used for the welfare of the people, including they were also people who were recipients of stipends even from the state when they were the one in the position of being needy. And also the Kharaj collectors was made sure that they were honest and they were sincere. And another important principle of the policy was make sure that to avoid financial corruption, because in general, the corruption you will start seeing more and more when the state becomes prosperous, and we see it in the time of Umar ibn Khattab, the state started getting a lot of wealth, and the people were getting wealthier, and that legacy that started in the time of Umar continued on in the time of Uthman as well. So that was the basic principles of the policy. Now, when it comes to the application of that, that we see that Uthman was very keen about making sure that the Islamic financial policies were implemented over the people. And as we know that the allegiance was given to him on the basis that he would apply the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also the two predecessors, the adopted policies of the two predecessors meant here, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu and Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. And we know that Abu Bakr, he applied, which was revealed in the Quran and the Sunnah, when it comes to the financial policies, and in general, all other rules as well. And Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he's the one, he really started defining the institutions in a more refined way, because in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr, both when they were ruling, we don't see, when it comes to financial gains, the state was still was not really affluent in any way. It was still financially, it seems to be did not have enough, and in general, Baitul Mal used to be empty whenever anything came into the Baitul Mal or the treasury. It was just distributed among the people. But in the time of Umar al-Khattab, we see that now there was an influx of the wealth, and the treasury had more money than before. And after taking care of the needs of the people, the wealth was still remaining, and hence Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, he started making institutions in a manner to kind of foundations that he placed, and there were guidelines he placed for and the principles. Like, for example, he's the one who started doing that Diwan system. Diwan is like a record system for when it comes to the stipends and all those things, or even the people who were going in battlefields, keeping track of all those people, how much time they're spending away from the home, and these kind of things, and also all the financial things they start writing and keeping track of it. Uthman radiallahu anh, as I mentioned, that he followed, of course, the law of Allah and His Messenger, and also the footsteps of Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhuma, and so he, of course, he followed their policies, but on top of it, the new issues that were coming up or was required ijtihad. Uthman continued to do the ijtihad as well, whether it was himself or the others who were doing the ijtihad for him. Now, he, of course, ijtihad, just to be clear, ijtihad means if there is a new issue that comes up that requires the ruling from the Quran and Sunnah, we have to put the effort to understand the reality, and for that specific reality, for that there is no clear hukum exists in the Quran and the Sunnah, then or ijma Sahaba, then you make the ijtihad, meaning you collect all the evidences about the specific subject and extract the rule, which is a job a mujtahid does. Mujtahid is a person who has the knowledge regarding the text and the reality for which the hukum is extracted. Now, so Uthman did that, and he implemented the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to the financial issues as well. Now, he made sure and he supervised when it comes to the zakah or the kharaj or any of those funds that were collected from for the Baitul Mal, that it is only distributed to the correct people, and also he made sure that Ahl Kitab paid the jizya and the jizya by Baitul Mal, and they are provided the protection, and they are given the security based on, because they are paying the tax that is for that specific, especially this is one of the reasons for that. Now, and he made sure that the 1/5 of the which is khums, which is the spoils of war, which is for Allah and His Messenger and his Rasulullah's close relatives. Of course, in the time of Uthman bin Affan, it was used for the state as a state property, and used for the work that the state needs to perform. And this is what some of the fuqaha take it from Allah and His Messenger means referring to the one who is ruling the state, so he will use that for the state affairs. Not talking about it becomes the wealth of the ruler, rather it is for the state to distribute among the people. Now, besides that, when we're talking about the policies, so I was talking about before I got disconnected because of some issues, technical issues here. So was talking about there are two aspects we talked about, which is one is about the Muslims, how the funds were collected and distributed among them, and then also the second part was about the dhimmis, which is the non-Muslim citizens of the state. When we and of course, when we talk about the collection of the kharaj, collection of the zakah, and all those things, this is specific to the one who were assigned this job to go and collect these kind of taxes or the zakah from the people. They go and collect that from the people, and it's in the time of Uthman, it was made sure that the collection is done in the proper way. There is no oppression was done over the people, and when it comes to distribution, it was done in not only in the correct way, but also to make sure that it was done in a timely manner. And when it comes to zakah, it was made sure that the 8 different categories of the zakah, which I mentioned in Surah Tawbah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُم وَفِي الرِّقَابِ وَالْغَارِمِينَ وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَفَرِيضَةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ, in which this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jalla talking about the 8 different categories of the recipients of the zakah, which are fuqara, which are the fuqara, the poor ones, and the masakin, also referred as the poor, but sometimes there's a distinction made between the fuqara and masakin, and we find the different definitions. One says the one who does not have enough enough to survive, and the other one is referred as the one who has enough to survive, but does not come under the category who can give the zakah. Okay. And Amelia is the zakah, also the one who do the work for collection of the zakah, and for mu'allafat al-qulub, which is to incline the people towards Islam. But that category in the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, it was Muslims became strong enough that this was not needed anymore. And then to free up the slaves, taking care of the people who are under the debt, and fi sabilillah, ibn sabil, and the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who are fighting in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ibn sabil, the wayfarer, meaning the one who is away from his house, even though he can be a rich person, enough money, is another one who may be giving the zakah when he had access to his wealth, but at that point he does not have access to his wealth. These are the people to whom the zakah can be utilized. So orphans were no different in this case, because orphans come under the category of the one who could be poor or needy, and they were also taken care in the time of Uthman bin Affan. And orphans were also entitled not only from the zakah, but in other cases from the khums as well, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمْسَهُ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ إِن كُنتُمْ آمَنتُم بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا يَوْمَ الْفُرْقَانِ يَوْمَ التَّقَى الْجَمْعَانِ. Over there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the categories, people to whom that 1/5 which is coming out as spoil of the war can be distributed, and yatama are or the orphans are part of them. One key thing that Uthman time was made sure of is the Kharaj collectors should be honest and they are trustworthy people. And that is from the commands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, when he told the one who was going to collect the zakat that don't take too much from the people, and when you're collecting it, do the collection with takhfif, meaning easy on them when you are collecting the zakat. Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu followed the guidelines given by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and of course he was following the policies that was done by Abu Bakr and Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. So we'll continue on this more regarding the financial policies of Uthman inshallah next week as well. And as I mentioned today, we will not be able to do the Q&A or the comments, but if there are any questions or comments, please hold up to your comments and questions for the next week, and inshallah I'll try to answer them next week. So we'll inshallah stop our talk today here. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.